a world that features superheroes not just from the Marvel Multiverse but from the comic book Omniverse, bringing together characters from multiple publishers, an Earth where heroes fight their foes using only packaged sugary snacks, and a reality where superpowers might actually be the worst thing that could happen to you. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. It's me, Amanda, and today we will be exploring all that and more as we count down the top 10 Marvel Multiverses we can't believe exist. Although, really, we're talking about universes, not necessarily multiverses. Well, in some instances, I guess we kind of are. Which do you think are the most unbelievable ones? Let us know. Number 10, Miracleman. It's kind of weird to think, but Miracleman exists over at Marvel Comics. Although admittedly, the story of Miracleman feels like it would fit perhaps a bit better over at a publisher like Dynamite Entertainment based on the story. It seems like a narrative that would fit more comfortably next to Dynamite's The Boys. It's a bleak story about a madman who experimented on basically young orphans using alien tech in order to try and create the perfect being. The power that they wield, however, comes both with perks as well as devastating setbacks, with the young sidekick of Marvelman, later renamed Miracleman, actually being driven mad by the power he wields and ending up ultimately becoming the world's greatest supervillain, despite inside still just being a young boy. When you think about it, it's pretty crazy to think that Miracleman is like a part of Marvel. That's wild. Of course, at least it's self-contained within its own world, but still, it's a pretty dark story over there in Earth 18. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not show us you love us by clicking that like button? Like it. Number 9, Larval Earth. Larval Earth is one of the names given to the homeworld of Spider-Ham. Here, all superheroes and supervillains are anthropomorphic creatures. This world is also similar in its style to classic animated slapstick cartoons such as Bugs Bunny. In my book, the cartoon physics involved here also makes Spider-Ham one of the most powerful Spider-Man alternates around, as he can pretty much survive almost anything and never really has to fear dying. This Earth is designated Earth 8311. Number 8, the Cancerverse. The Cancerverse is a reality that almost threatens to take over the rest of the multiverse, if you can believe it. In this universe, life finally beat death, which was completely eradicated. Now, while this might sound pretty good on paper, I mean, not dying sounds pretty great, in practice it actually was not so great. This is because of the manner in which it was eradicated, and also because without death there is nothing to keep life in check, so it kind of runs rampant and becomes terrible. The universe as a result became corrupted, basically turning into a living corpse. This reality came to be because Marvel's Captain Marvel made a deal with the Many-Angled Ones to cure his cancer. As a result, this universe ended up being infiltrated by the Many-Angled Ones, who are basically like the elder gods of Marvel Comics, and they bent the entire universe to their will. Number 7, Marvel Zombies. While it might seem kind of atypical to pick Marvel Zombies for this list, it still is a world that I cannot believe exists. It's so terrifying. What's more, I can't believe this is a project we could be seeing reimagined as an animated or even live action series, as Marvel did announce that it would be coming to Disney+. That's right, we're supposed to get a Marvel Zombies series, I believe. Of course, I haven't really heard anything since that announcement that it was going to be coming and that it would be written by Zeb Wells, but I'm still super intrigued by the idea even of this adaptation. Marvel Zombies is a surprisingly gruesome, brutal, and bloody world in Marvel Comics, so it's definitely a weird one. Number 6, Loomworld. Loomworld is an interesting place. One, this is actually known as Earth 001, which is odd because the number 1 would imply it's more original in its existence than other Earths, including the main comic book continuity of Earth 616, which, you know, is the main one, so you'd think that would be one. And it's also the home of the Inheritors, who are basically cosmic multiversal energy vampires. However, it also kind of makes sense that this is considered Earth 001. Ashur and Gaia, powerful gods, once resided here along with many other gods and goddesses. Earth 001 was then the nexus of the multiverse. They tasked their daughters to basically come up with a system that they might use to map out the multiverse, since, you know, that was the nexus. Their daughter, Shathra, created the Great Hive, while their daughter Neith created the Great Web. Between the two, Neith's design was preferred. However, this caused Shathra to rage. Becoming consumed by her jealousy, Shathra turned monstrous and became focused on devouring the protectors of the multiverse, who we'd come to know as spider totems. That's the story of the Spider-Verse. Well, not entirely, but That's a part of it. Number 5, Magical Girl. Not the name of this reality, but it's what I'm calling it. The original Penny Parker is already a wild enough and super cool character in the Marvel Multiverse. But of course, Marvel had to go even further with this alternate version of Spider-Man by also making an alternate version of this alternate, turning her into a magical girl? In Marvel's Contest of Champions, there is an alternate version of Penny who is said to hail from Earth 23. In this reality, she met a magical creature which granted her powers, turning her into a magical guardian and warrior. She fights against evil with the power of friendship and love. Sound familiar to you? Initially, the Earth she hailed from, Earth 23, was also known as the Mangaverse, which would make sense, but the number for the Mangaverse would actually later be changed to Earth 2301. So now Earth 23, I guess, is just like another Mangaverse, but only in Contest of Champions, is a thing. Number 4, Ruins. Probably one of, if not the bleakest Marvel universes in existence. Ruins leaves me reeling every time I return to it. What can be said of this reality that I haven't said already? It was made to be kind of the antithesis to the normal Marvel fare, the opposite of the main continuity, if you will, and really, it did succeed there. No power comes without some level of disturbing sacrifice or tragedy in Ruins, which is what makes it so terrible, but also, in a way, kinda great because it is very different. I don't know if it's different in a good way though. Number 3, Doctor Who Universe. Doctor Who actually exists in the Marvel Multiverse, if you can believe that. This is because back in the 80s, Marvel actually published a series based on the famous television series of the same name. The comic was known as Doctor Who Monthly. The universe in Marvel that the Doctor exists in and hails from is known as Earth 5556. And while Doctor Who may now be a property whose comics are published by Titan Comics, the fact still remains that because Marvel did have the rights in the 80s, technically the Doctor does exist in the ever-expanding Marvel Multiverse. Somewhere out there, the Doctor's running around, working on timey-wimey, time-traveling stuff, which is pretty wild to think about. And within that series itself, other alternate universes were also explored that are likely also tied to the main Marvel Doctor Who universe, the continuity, the Earth of 5556. So in a way, there is like a Doctor Who multiverse that exists within the Marvel Multiverse. Multiverses on multiverses. And there you go. There's a single multiverse at least that exists within a multiverse. Woo! Number 2, Hostess Snacks. If you can believe it, there is a whole reality based off of the advertisements in Marvel Comics. That's right, that's a thing! The Hostess Snacks advertisements. This is a wonderful world where heroes simply use snacks to defeat their villains, who are often all just kind of riled up because they're hungry. That tends to be part of the themes of the stories often. Sad, really, but I get it. When I get really hungry, I know I definitely feel like a pull towards the dark side is coming from within my stomach, and I am drawn towards committing crimes. I have to resist. I reach for that Hostess snack. I'm like, I feel better. In this reality, heroes would use various Hostess snacks to appease and often redeem their enemies. Sadly, not every character here lived a happy life, and the golden sponge cake alternate Spider-Man of this reality did end up being one of the many who was killed during Spider-Verse by the evil inheritor known as Morlun. So sad. If you aren't certain what an inheritor is, they're the cosmic energy vampires I was talking about earlier with Loomworld. In fact, the Earth and realm ends up as their headquarters after they force the Master Weaver to do their bidding. The reality of Earth 001, not the Hostess Cakes reality. Although that would be pretty funny if they were like, you know what, why don't we just chill here? We got all the Hostess snacks we could need. Too bad we don't eat them because we're energy vampires. We really only eat like spider totems, but yeah. Number 1, America's Best Comics. This one was actually super interesting to me, as it actually ties back to some comic book history, which I personally really love diving into myself, so I'm gonna take you on a journey with me. This Earth is known as Earth 10 in the Marvel Multiverse, but I'm still not sure if it's ever been like officially designated as Earth 10, so this may be actually an unofficial alternate Earth mentioned outside of Marvel. I mean, normally we have a temporal reality number or a temporary reality number when it isn't official, but I don't know. I'm not sure. I did some research into this and I was only able to find out so much. So if you know more, share with me in the comments. Earth 10 is what I could find this world designated as, official or not, as being the home of America's Best Comics, which was actually a Wildstorm imprint created by Alan Moore, which is pretty crazy to think. Now Wildstorm is an imprint at DC, but before Wildstorm was its own thing, and then America's Best Comics was an imprint there. America's Best Comics had multiple series under its umbrella, one of them being, get this, a comic called Top 10, which was not a series about this channel, but instead a unique take on a police procedural, which took place in a city where everyone had superpowers. A sort of like citywide kind of retirement community for superheroes from across the multiverse, across the Omniverse you might even say. Among those spotted there was Marvel's famous Wolverine, whether the Wolverine from the main continuity or the Wolverine of Earth 10 or the Wolverine from somewhere else, we don't really know. The other interesting thing is that DC characters also apparently appeared, although I'm not sure if any of the characters to appear from the big two, at least not initially, were actually official, or if they were just characters that looked very similar, but you know, we never really said their names. DC would end up acquiring Jim Lee's Wildstorm, and with it Alan Moore's imprint of America's Best Comics, or ABC as it's sometimes referred to. This was controversial as well at the time, as Moore had actually sworn at that point to never work with DC again, but apparently Lee had only found that out after he had made the deal with DC. Fortunately for Lee, Moore wasn't too bothered by the decision and managed to accept it and kind of roll along, even though it went against what he had initially said. He was able to move forward from it. America's Best Comics, or the ABC Universe, as it is often known, still apparently exists today as the alternate reality of Earth 25 over at DC, which definitely makes sense since, you know, they kind of also bought that, and the alternate world of Earth 10 over at Marvel, which, as I said, I'm still a little, I don't really know what's official and what's not. Woo! Now I need to go back and read top 10. Sounds super cool. That's about it for this one. Until next time, stay nerdy, YouTube.